Hey guys, we are moving forward. We got a quick little lecture for you today about what are referred to as the economic principles. For the sake of the class, you guys are on, you should have this chapter one guided notes open. They're going to look like this. If you watch the video from the day before, you should know that we skipped over these principles here. So we're going to rip through these real quick. It's going to be extremely faster than yesterday. And it's going to give us a way of understanding how economists kind of start basing some of their predictions. Okay, so we're going to get started. So some of these things, just like in any other science, you have some set rules that you go by. So whether it's like Newton's laws of physics or whatever you want to start with. Sorry, I'm not a big scientist guy right now. We have what we refer to as principles as far as things that we can absolutely guarantee. So the first thing we know is that people have to make choices. You're making a choice to watch this video right now, which is taking away time from doing something else. Um, you make choices on how to spend your money, which means you can't spend it on something else. We know that people make choices. Super simple to understand. We know that. And a lot of these, as you'll see, are pretty common sense. All right. The next thing that we can look at is that people's choices involve costs. If you watched the video yesterday, we had those opportunity costs and we had those production possibility curves, and we were able to identify how much we give up to decide to do something else, right? So simple way, just as a quick review, is like if I'm a farmer and I decide to grow corn, I can measure how many soybeans I give up if I make that decision. Sometimes our choices are can be listed in cost as money. Doesn't always have to be. Okay, it can be cost in time. It can be cost in doing some other or producing some other resource or doing some other action. Okay. Number three is that our choices also have consequences, okay, that not only lie today, okay, like right now, but we also have choices that our consequences lie in the future. Okay, so for example, if I decide to go to college, right? So my immediate consequences, I got to put some time in, okay, whether it's 2 years, 4 years, whatever, right? I've got to put some time. That's my immediate consequence. Okay, it's kind of an expensive consequence. My long in the future consequence, hopefully, right, I get to do something that's going to give me more utility, okay, or more satisfaction, whether that be money, whether that be enjoyment, whatever that might be. Obviously, in the future, that's hopefully what I'm eventually gaining, right? Now, on the flip side, right, if I choose to go to work right out of high school, there's going to be the immediate consequences. I'm making money right now, right? I don't have any financial costs of college. Okay, I didn't throw that as a present cost in college. Okay, but I don't have any present costs in college. Now, in the future, right? In the future, obviously, well, the statistics say that I won't make as much money. That's not obviously a guarantee. Obviously, I in the future I won't have the opportunity to probably do as many jobs that may require a college degree. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a bad job. It just means that obviously, things change over time. So we can look at things right now, and we can look at things we can even look at things in the short future, and we can even look at things in the more distant future. So we'll get to that as we go through the content of the course. All right. The next thing we can assume is that people are going to respond to incentives in predictable ways. Okay, so basically an incentive is either a reward or a punishment. So notice I can have positive incentives, so that's going to be a reward. So if you decide to come to school every single day, maybe your parents would give you some type of financial reward. I don't know. I used to. Okay, with virtual learning right now, it's a little bit different. I used to say if you came to school every day, zero absences, you got 3 percentage points extra credit. Okay, on the end of your grade. Okay, obviously it's difficult to keep track of that now. That's kind of taking a back seat a little bit. But there used to be, but the reward for doing something. So another one, maybe a little bit easier, is we have pride cards at the high school now too, right? So you get those, you can use them basically as a currency in like the concession stand for whatever you might want to purchase if you are able to earn those pride cards. Now we also have punishments, right? And we have the government that says, hey, if you do this, you're going to go to jail. If obviously do things that we don't approve of, you're going to be fined, punished in one way, shape, or form. Schools have those too. Your parents definitely have those, right? As far as when you break a rule or whatever, they're going to probably take something away from you. Okay, in those particular cases. And again, these are meant to motivate us to do certain things, right? Am I going to get rewarded for doing something? And obviously the possibility of being punished for doing something to prevent my behavior from occurring. Okay, but we can predict that people are going to respond to those things in pretty predictable ways. Now, some incentives for people are super. The reason I spend more time on this is because it's probably the most important one. Is that some people's incentives are super easy to identify. Some people's incentives are very difficult to identify. And so, when we talk about like, okay, what's a rule we can have for the entire school? Well, some part of the school, some kids don't care about the pride cards. They're of no value to them, right? Same thing with like punishments. Okay, if you come late to school, we're going to make you stay after school for 30 minutes. Some kids don't care. They're going to sit there for 30 minutes and not be affected by it. So identify or creating an incentive that everyone is going to um, associate with um, that's going to associate with trying to affect their behavior can be very difficult. All right. So number 5 is people are going to trade when they gain. We're going to gain when they trade voluntarily. That's what we're talking about in the next lecture. We're going to prove that with some graphs. It's actually kind of an interesting thing to see. Really, our first thing that we're going to prove, a concept. So anyway, we're going to trade. We're going to gain when we trade. Long story short, before we get into it on the next lecture, is that if I can trade, that means I can specialize and do something that I'm good at, right? I can let someone else specialize and do something they're good at, and they're going to be way more efficient, right, than both of us trying to do the same thing or everything at once by ourselves, right? So then we can trade, and we're going to get more stuff that way. If we get people together, okay, if we can set prices, okay, we're going to probably eventually organize economic activity. That's a fancy way of saying supply and demand. We're going to spend lots of time on that, obviously, in the future as well. Sometimes the government can do things to improve outcomes. So sometimes they can do things. So what outcomes do they want to improve? Well, we're going to talk about 3 main statistics. We're going to talk about GDP, that's how much our economy produces. We're going to talk about unemployment, and we're going to talk about inflation. Those are the 3 big statistics that we focus on in this particular class. And the government can do some things to manipulate those statistics. Notice the key word sometimes, okay? So sometimes they do things and they make other things worse. And so we'll get to that when we get there. A country's wealth depends on our ability to produce goods and services. That's an obvious one, right? Our ability to produce stuff comes from a couple different things. Natural resources, okay, and these are your factors of production. Your natural resources, your labor capabilities, so your labor skills, okay, what can your people do? And then your capital, okay, do we have the money to start putting that stuff to work? Okay, so again, kind of an obvious one, but getting these on paper and seeing them in front of your face, I think, hopefully gives you some confidence. Like, okay, I can think about this stuff in a pretty clear way. If the government prints too much money, prices are going to go up. Those of you that have taken U.S. history, you guys are familiar with the situation that Germany. The best example of that is when Germany tried to print their way out of World War I debt. Ended poorly. And the last one is, again, something we'll talk about later on, is a short run trade off between inflation and unemployment. Okay, so inflation and unemployment work opposite of each other. So when unemployment gets better, meaning people have jobs, that means they spend money. When people spend money, it creates inflation. The opposite happens when people don't have jobs. Okay, prices go down, inflation decreases. So think of the Great Depression. A lot of people think that the Great Depression things were super expensive. Well, they weren't super expensive because prices went up. They were super expensive because people didn't have money. And we actually see prices decrease during the Great Depression. Unemployment really high, inflation really low. And the opposite happens if obviously people have jobs, inflation goes up, unemployment goes down. That's a topic for a different day. Okay, hope you're keeping up with these notes. I'm going to stop there, and we'll talk again on our next lecture, which for you guys will be Monday, and we'll keep going. Make sure you're keeping up with the assignments. We've got a couple of them for you here these last couple days. Some easy stuff, some pretty simple stuff.